When rolling out a new initiative at the school district level, it's important to consider how many resources you have available to support it. Today, I talked to Sarah Kyriazis from Worcester Public Schools in Massachusetts about what it means to build capacity to support an initiative in a large district.
Welcome to Focus on K-12, EdTech and the Education Experience. I'm your host, Doug Konopelko, Education Strategist at CDWG. So let's dive in as we focus on K-12.
Hi, my name is Sarah Kyriazis, and I am the Manager Director of Instructional Technology and Digital Learning for the Worcester Public Schools in Worcester, Massachusetts.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for being with us today, and thanks for sharing some of this conversation. So you and I have talked a little bit about building capacity and what that looks like at the district level for teachers, for principals, for instructional leaders. So take me through a little bit of your work surrounding that area.
Sure. So here in Worcester, we're the second largest school district in New England. And so we have about 50 schools, alternative schools, about 4,500 staff and 26,000 students. So when I first entered the district in the summer of 2017, there was only 2 instructional technology coaches for all of those schools for the district. So immediately, once we decided to switch to Google Apps for Education, we looked at kind of the training and professional development and said, how can we do this with 2 people? So I worked closely with the Collaborative for Educational Services and one of their technology consultants, Casey Daigle, and they're in Western Mass. And we put together something called the iTeacher program, the Innovative Teacher Leadership Program. And we used Title IV funds, which were new that year, to give a very modest stipend to teachers to become Google certified trainers, to learn how to run professional development in their buildings. And that first cohort started in January of 2018. We hadn't even switched to Google yet. We hadn't bought Chromebooks. We hadn't done anything. We bought 24 Chromebooks. Teachers applied through School Spring. Our local teachers applied. And so what was nice about that is that it wasn't the usual teachers that usually, leadership might choose. It was teachers that really were interested in building this capacity. And so this year we are on our 6th cohort of teachers. So we've really built up a lot of capacity with our schools, and the impact that they've had over the last, almost 3 years in January has been tremendous in helping us shift not only into Google Apps for Education, but just through blended learning and teaching using technology, and now we're full remote this year with the pandemic. So it's been a huge impact.
Yeah, so it sounds like one thing that, building that capacity with the teachers allows you to do, right, is take something that you had, which was making this change instructionally, and with the technology with a really small staff, right, and finding a way to make it impact all of the teaching staff.
Correct. And we are up to, I think we have 60 that are officially Google certified trainers, but we have about 130 teachers now with our 6th cohort that have gone through this program. So some of the schools, especially the larger high schools, have 4 what we call iTeachers in their schools. And so when we roll out professional development, we continuously meet with the iTeachers. And they go and they meet with their principals and the instructional coaches in their schools, just the typical instructional coaches in their schools, and they work on their professional development plans, and then they roll out those different tools and technology integration strategies to their staff. And we know the program is successful because the first year principals weren't quite sure what was happening, but now every time we ran 2 cohorts last year, principals are like, when's the next cohort? When's the next cohort? So they really see the value and really rely on their iTeachers. About a year and a half into the program, so the first year of the program is 7 full days spread out over the 10 months. And then subsequent years, we combine cohorts, and they meet 4 half days over the course of the year. So we get a lot of feedback from our iTeachers. We're in constant communication with them. And part of what they said is, this is great and this can come from the teachers, but we really need our principals to be on board. So about a year and a half in, we started an iPrincipals program, and it's principals and district leadership together. And I think we started out with maybe 15 in the first cohort. And we work on leadership skills for technology integration. So principals are tech integration leaders in their schools, and we work on skills and mindset and how to shift your school using technology. So this year we started our third cohort of iPrincipals, and then we also added an assistant principal cohort this year. So we have a lot of people involved. So probably about 35 principals and district leaders have been involved in those cohorts. And if we run one more next year, then I think we'll have all principals in the district involved in something. So it's really nice to have it, come at it from the teachers and then from the principals, so they meet in the middle, really to bring about that systemic change. And we were able to hire a few more technology coaches, so we're up to 7 for the district that support all of these teachers and principals in their schools. So yeah, we came up with a program out of a need and a lack of personnel and a lack of funding, and it's turned into something that we never could have imagined. Especially now, it's almost invaluable. It's almost like we could have predicted that we needed this much support today, but it's been really invaluable now.
Right. So has it really, you feel like, shifted because of moving to a more digital first model, that, these teachers being in place already and having years of experience under your belt, do you feel like you were better prepared because of all that?
I do feel like instructionally and with the mindset, we were pretty well prepared. We had a lot of people in place to be able to activate things really, really quickly. And we also have a lot of people that are almost like in mini incubator, like R&D cycles, because we ask them to implement something, they try it, and I have like across the bottom of my computer about 4 different chats, and so they are constantly in Google Chat. If someone has an issue in their classroom, they're chatting it out, another teacher's answering, the principals have the same thing. So it's constant communication. And when we shut down March 13th last year, we really relied on those teachers to support their schools and get them up and running. What was really, really nice is now a lot of these teachers, especially because we have so many Google certified trainers, we also have introduced the ISTE standards with them, so they work on those, working on TPAC and SAMR, and like now all of the new apps we bought for remote learning. So whatever we're purchasing, they can start to roll those out. And then we also have, they're classroom teachers, so some of them have expertise in like early elementary or secondary
Sure.
math or science and art, music. So there's someone that can kind of support different professional developments. But this summer, what we did, which was probably one of the best things, 2 of the best things we've done as a district around technology integration, is we found a big need to support our families. We have a large amount of families that have a different home language other than English. And also, we weren't one-to-one before the pandemic. So there's a lot of new technology that went out because now we are one-to-one. So one of my staff led a team called Worcester Public Schools Caregivers Academy. And so we were able to pull from the iTeachers, put out a job posting and have them work on this really wonderful, it started as a website and now it's webinars and drop-ins and tons of support for families, but we were able to pull from the iTeachers to work on that. And that's become really successful. We call it the caregivers because there's more than just families helping students at home. There's aunts and uncles and community centers and pods and, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, Girls Inc. So there's tons of community groups helping. So we run webinars for those community groups to help support our students. And then the second thing was we pulled together a team of iTeachers that worked on self-paced modules to launch remote learning for this year. And we rolled out these 7 self-paced modules to 4,500, so about like 3,800 instructional staff, and they went through 3 full days of self-paced professional development made by teachers for teachers. And we keep hearing even today, even though it was 10 weeks ago, that principals are still using them for professional development, teachers are still using them. So, and that was all made by teachers. So I think it doesn't get any better than that, to get your professional development from a colleague.
Yeah, and it sounds like, the one of the benefits of building all that capacity is that when you do have a new need, you're able to address those needs more immediately because you have people who are already familiar, not just with the products, but with the pedagogy that surrounds it, with the processes that surround it as a district. And I like the idea that, it did move from being just iTeacher up to iPrincipal. So my next sort of natural extension of that would be, so what does that look like for people that haven't been involved in a school district implementation? Mm-hmm. How does what you're doing with iTeacher and iPrincipal make it down to the student level and really impact the student experience?
Mm-hmm. So I think the work that the iTeachers do with their colleagues, everything that they do impacts their students. And we have things like weekly or bi-weekly check-ins with students. And so this is mandated throughout the district because of remote learning. And they're asking students, how are you feeling? Do you feel connected? So schools look at that data. And now that everyone's using technology all the time, they look at that data and say, okay, what can we do using technology to help connect with our students more, or to help engage our students, to connect with our families? So I think that the ability for teachers to troubleshoot, to identify technology, to use technology for engagement impacts the students. And I think that some of the things we did in the spring, because we made a lot of mistakes like everyone in the spring, is that we asked the students, what tools do you like? Why do you like them? And so then we, based on those answers and based on principal observation and teacher observation, tried something different in summer school, and that worked. And that's what we rolled out for our learning for this year. And so with all, this isn't just, the technology offices, all the offices working together, district offices working with principals and working with teachers, is that really being able to harness technology for both engagement, communication, and to improve student learning and outcomes affects the students.
When you're building out a program that focuses around building capacity, what are some of the books or authors or resources or things that you followed or researched along the way to help you with that process?
I really rely heavily on the ISTE leadership standards, educator standards, student standards. So I do a lot of work with those. Almost all of my team now are ISTE certified educators, and some of our iTeachers are now going through the ISTE certified educator program, which is, if you haven't heard of it or haven't done it, is the most phenomenal program. So that's one of them. As a district, we've done a lot of work with John Hattie's work. Right now with distance learning, we're unpacking like the distance learning playbook. Some of the coaching we look at is, is working with Focus Schools, which is Carrie Purcell. She's out of Florida. So a lot of different things. We've done some UDL work. So I think that it's kind of a combination of all of those things, and building teacher capacity. I think because I went from being like a technology teacher to an instructional technology coach and then straight to a district administrator, I really felt like the teachers are the closest to the students, and the teachers are the ones that make the most impact. And so my philosophy and a lot of the philosophy of the district leadership is that we need to do everything we can to support principals, to support teachers.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Really, really impactful, and I'm glad to hear, obviously, that we know it makes it down to those students. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. Thanks for talking through what it means to build capacity in a program like that, and thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today on Focus on K-12 EdTech and the Education Experience. If you enjoyed today's show, please feel free to like, subscribe, and click the little bell so that you get notified whenever we post a new episode. If you have an idea for a future guest or just want to talk about the show, either post something in the comments below or reach out to me on Twitter @dconopelco. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time as we focus on K-12.